Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us. I am Daniel Reynolds with Fusion Marketing, and we will be presenting today about healthcare recruitment marketing in what we call the new normal. I'm very excited to be joined by my colleague and fellow industry expert, Robin Weisman, our digital marketing manager. As I said, I am Daniel Reynolds, our Vice President of Client Services. So again, thank you for joining us. We have some great information to share with you today. We're excited to be sharing it and hope that you find this useful. We will also share a recording of this webinar following the presentation as well. So you can certainly share with your colleagues. So what you're going to learn today, again, we're going to be sharing case studies, so actual real work with healthcare organizations similar to yourself to show you some true examples of what they're doing and how they're adapting to what we're calling the new normal. So we're going to look at how you can transition your events from on-site to online. We're going to talk about virtual hiring event. What are the options? How can you choose the right type for you, for your specific organization, and specifically the type of position you're looking to fill, and really take away the stigma of, I can't afford a virtual platform, I don't understand the virtual platform, I don't have the ability to utilize it. We're going to show you all of those different options and make sure that you know they're all within your reach. And again, we want to make sure that you're doing this right. So we're going to show you throughout this presentation the do's and don'ts of recruiting virtually. Again, on-site is much different than online. So we want to show you some of the ins and outs that we've learned along the way so you're doing it the right way. So just a little bit of background about Fusion Marketing, who we are, how we operate, just to give you an idea of where we're coming from and the information we're sharing. We are a recruitment advertising agency, and we only work with healthcare organizations. So everything we do is based upon what we know about healthcare organizations and the healthcare job seeker. So just to give you an idea of some of our clients and who we work with, again, organizations like yourselves who are facing the same challenges, the same struggles, not only with filling hard to fill positions, with having to do more with less, but now having to deal in what we're calling this new normal, where everything is virtual and everything seems to be changing at such a rapid pace. So again, we work with healthcare organizations throughout the country, Beth Israel Lahey Health in Boston, Northeast Georgia Health System, obviously in Georgia, about an hour northeast of Atlanta, Chapters Health System, a post-acute system in the greater Tampa area. And again, we're going to show some case studies from a few of these organizations as we move through the presentation. Something else that is different about us as opposed to some other organizations out there is we are based solely on analytics. We practice what we call evidence-based marketing. That means we use evidence to drive all of our decisions. So we have our own analytic platform that we use, and we've tracked over 12 million career website visitors to date. So we're able to track the entire journey a candidate takes. So just a quick overview on what that looks like. Every piece of marketing channel we're putting a cookie on, whether it's a search engine marketing ad, a social media ad, an email, a job posting, so that whatever the result of that ad is, if the candidate goes to a landing page, if they go directly to your career website, or even they're funneled directly to your applicant tracking system, we're following that path so we can start to track some of those key performance indicators, like did they visit your website? Did they look at a job detail view or make it to your job description? Did they submit a form? Did they RSVP for an event? And finally, did they complete an application? So that when we're utilizing different marketing channels, having this type of data is going to allow you to not only see what sources are working so you can utilize your marketing dollars best, but it's also going to start to paint a picture of the candidate and what that candidate journey is, so you can start to have a true understanding and again build strategies around that information and around that data.
In addition to our analytics, we're also conducting market research through surveys and in-depth interviews with clinical positions to understand the why. So we see the data and we want to understand the why. So we are investing in proprietary primary research with RNs, therapists, physicians, nursing assistants, all different types of positions. And then we also will do ongoing in-depth interviews. And recently in March, after the COVID-19 started, we started doing some interviews with RNs and respiratory therapists to see how that was affecting them on the job and when they would be looking for a job in the future.
So from all of that, we have developed what we call our evidence-based solution. So this is just, again, a very high-level overview of the different solutions and services that we offer to all of our client partners. And again, as we go through this and show some examples of going virtual, we'll show some of these specific examples as well. So just in different categories, we put things in websites. That's everything from developing a career website to consulting a career website to even looking past the website into the applicant tracking system and making sure that all works together with good continuity. Of course, all of your digital marketing, whether that's your paid search marketing, your targeted banner ads, your social media, re-engagement, which is a huge piece of what we do and should be a huge piece of what you do, which includes your retargeting banners and your remarketing emails, which again will show how we utilize that in conjunction with our virtual hiring events. What we call our other paid media. So when you think of recruitment advertising, your traditional advertising, things like emails, job postings, etc. And of course, what we call, key initiatives, sort of something that you're going to be doing, but not necessarily all the time, whether that's, creating that original employer branding campaign, whether it's a specific hiring event, which is obviously, at the core of what we're talking about today. So again, we are a full service recruitment advertising agency. And the reason we want to show you this is just, again, so you have an idea of who we are, so that as we go through these different examples and case studies, it gives you a better picture of what you're looking at and how you can understand and hopefully utilize this information. We also consider ourselves hiring experts. Why I say that is because we partner with our clients and have hosted, they have hosted, but we have helped plan, execute, promote, and deliver extremely great results in hiring events. Looking back at 2019 in terms of on-site events, we helped our clients plan over 100 on-site events. We had one virtual event in 2019, and as we go through this, I'll explain what that means and why we wanted to show you that, because as we fast forward to 2020, we're now up to 27 virtual events. 2 days ago, that number was 26, because these events are literally happening multiple times a week for our clients because of how important it is to continue to be able to have that direct connection and direct interaction with your candidate. So obviously you can see from 2019 to 2020, the virtual event has truly taken off. And at the core of why that is obviously because of COVID-19. It hasn't necessarily been a choice, but more of a mandatory reaction to what is happening in the world today.
And we know from our primary research that RNs want to go to an open house. 55% of RNs are likely to attend an open house to find out more about the type of job opportunities. They like that face-to-face conversation. They like the immediate feedback that they get when they attend an open house. So our goal is to figure out how to do that in a virtual setting and still give them that same satisfaction. And in today's climate, everyone is used to going virtual. Everyone is working from home, learning from home, socializing from home, and Zoom has had almost 13 million monthly active users, up 21% since 2019, and that's just one platform. People are so comfortable with this that they're actually using Zoom as a verb in their daily lives. So this also translates to healthcare hiring trends.
So obviously the big picture is, or the big question is, how do you go from your traditional on-site hiring event, whether you're hosting it for nurses, it's an RN residency program, it's a walk-in Wednesday, there's so many different variations that we've seen and it's evolved over the years. How do you transition that into a virtual event? And what is the right type of event? And how do you organize and structure the event? So we're going to go through again and show some different examples and talk to what the thought process was of our clients and what brought them to the type of event that they determined to use so that they were able to be successful. So, again, when planning your hiring event, your virtual hiring event, whether you've already had 1 or 10 of these or you're looking to get your first, I always ask you to take a step back and kind of walk through this process, because like anything, the more planned out the event is, the better it's going to be in the end. So instead of just saying, hey, we have to react, we have to go virtual, give yourself a minute of pause and ask yourself and talk through some of these things. First and foremost, who's the target audience? I mean, this is, whether it's an on-site or an off-site or a virtual event, that's always a very important question. Who are you targeting? Who do you want to show up so that you can interact with and at the end of the day or at the end of the next week or two, hire and to bring into your organization? Who's going to be included? Is this just going to be sourcers? Is it going to be recruiters? Might you have hiring managers or directors involved? Obviously, that plays a key role in the flow of the event and what the final outcome will be. How far can you advance the candidate? Can you truly perform an interview virtually? And then again, is that only by recruiters or is that by hiring managers? Can you actually make an offer at a virtual event? All of those factors are going to be very important into, the final outcome of your virtual hiring event. So from that, what are the objectives and what's the style? Is this specifically a chat-based event? Is this an event where you're utilizing, on the phone? Maybe you have a video conference call platform you're utilizing. As you get more information, that information will start to come. And then, of course, event timing and scheduling. I always recommend don't schedule an event 3 days from now or even a week from now. Give yourself ample time to prepare, but also to promote your hiring event. What platforms do you either have at your fingertips, right? A lot of organizations already have agreements in place with the Zooms of the world or the GoToMeetings. So figuring out either what platforms you have available that you can use, or looking to what platform you want to begin to be able to utilize moving forward. And of course, marketing elements. It's great to have this planning go into an event, but we still need people to get there, whether it's on site, whether it's online. Without the candidates, all the planning can be for nothing. And then finally, what's your follow-up strategy? You've had 50, 60, 100 people show up to an event. What's the follow-up strategy? What's the next step? Don't just leave, don't just end a chat without having a specific follow-up strategy. So we're going to go through some specific events and show you how our clients went through this process and what the end result was for them. So again, going virtual, this is, as much as the term the new normal is thrown around, unfortunately, that's the reality of the world we live in. And so I think we're all continuing to get used to it. But how can we get better at it in terms of going virtual and in terms of healthcare recruitment marketing? So when we look at the options for going virtual, again, it's not just going virtual. We've done, again, so many of these and had so many conversations that we've started to break these down into subgroups for virtual hiring events. There's what we call chat events. There's virtual chat events, virtual hiring events, virtual interview events, and even invitation-only events. And of course, from there, how do you get these staff members onboarded? If you're not able to hold your orientations on site, if you can't bring in 50 to 100 people into an auditorium, somehow that orientation has to be transitioned to a virtual platform. So we'll show an example of that as well. So again, a lot of different options in terms of going virtual. It's not just as easy as saying, hey, let's go virtual and pushing a button. So the first case study we're going to show is for Cleveland Clinic Martin Health. If you're not familiar, they are based in Stuart, Florida. They have 3 hospitals. They were Martin Memorial Health System. They were acquired by Cleveland Clinic a few years ago. And they actually did this. This was the one virtual event in 2019, if you think back to that hiring event expert slide. And the reason they went virtual, this was October of 2019, was obviously not related to COVID. It was because they didn't have the space on site and they didn't have the resources on site in terms of staff to be able to adequately staff an event, but they had the needs and the hiring managers really wanted an event to be set up. So we made the determination to go virtual. So obviously, this wasn't the first virtual event we had ever participated in, but it was the first for this client. So a lot went into the planning for it and the preparation for this event because we wanted to ensure it was a success.
And what's interesting about this event and what we want to show you here is that your promotion for getting people to come to your event, whether it's an on-site event or a virtual event, is virtually the same, not to use the word virtually. So you'll see that on the career website, we do a pop-up on the homepage. So here you'll see on the left side of your screen for the on-site event and on the right side of your screen for the virtual event. We're going to go through some of these marketing elements. So next we'll show you search engine marketing. So we do pay-per-click marketing on Google, on Bing, and different search engines. So you'll see that both of those events have that. Also, you'll see retargeting banner ads. So these are banner ads served to anyone that's been to our site before and looked at jobs. We cookie them and provide ads across the internet. We're also sending emails to anyone in our database that we want to invite to the event and that we consider a remarketing email. We're also doing social media advertising on Facebook and Instagram, both for the on-site and virtual. And our landing pages, where we send the candidates from the marketing to sign up, those look a little bit different, but it's still the same strategy. On the on-site, you'll see we have location, time, where you need to go. And on the right side, it's more about this is who you're going to be chatting with, and this is how the actual chat is going to go when you get to the virtual event. And then we send a reminder email out to candidates after they've signed up for the event. And again, the big difference here is here's the location where you're going to come, and here's the link where you're going to chat. We also use this opportunity to target people outside of the market because it was virtual. So for this event, we had almost 200 people RSVP for the event and 101 attendees. And with those people that weren't able to attend, we're able to send them emails and connect with them and continue that candidate relationship with those candidates after.
And
so
just one thing I want to point.
Oh, sorry.
Just one thing I want to point out here, sorry to interrupt, is if you were to think back to the last slide, if you saw that landing page, they only had 2 recruiters participating, an HR manager and a recruiter, who were able to live chat with 101 attendees. So they were very well prepared, did a lot of training leading up to this, because that is a lot of number to only have 2 folks chatting with them. So again, I don't want you to feel overwhelmed by this. It just really goes back to being prepared and making sure that you're, well versed in whatever technology platform you're going to use.
Great point. So throughout the presentation, we're going to kind of give you some do's and don'ts tips when you're having a virtual hiring event. So for this one, the big do is to promote your event just like you would for an on-site hiring event. And the big don't here is you can't expect candidates to just show up because the event is virtual. You have to do your marketing to get people to attend the event. And then once you've had the event and it's a successful event, you want to be able to share that excitement with the rest of your team. So don't just do one of these virtual events in silo just because there aren't 100 people walking in through the building. Putting together a one-page snapshot to be able to show the broader team what you did and what your successes makes a big impact in your organization.
And I think if you haven't done a virtual event yet and you're looking to do your first, I would 100% recommend you definitely do some type of a follow-up success story, because that's going to get the buy-in from the organization to say, hey, we did one, look at these results, it worked, we need to continue this strategy moving forward. And if you've already done a number of these and you're not doing this, I still recommend it, because what we have learned through all of our years in working with, all of our healthcare partners is that a lot of times the recruitment team, the talent acquisition team doesn't get all the credit they deserve for all of the hard work they're doing. They seem to just be the ones that, you're getting angry emails, I might say, for positions not being filled. So utilize these successful events as an opportunity to share those success stories, not only with the TA team, the recruitment team, with your hiring managers, but even the executive team and the leaders of the organization, because again, these virtual events, if done right, can be very successful. So let's share that success throughout the organization. So the next event we're going to look at is for Chapters Health System. As I mentioned, they are a post-acute care health system in the greater Tampa area. I believe they're now serving up to 11 counties throughout Florida. They actually are getting ready to open their most recent entity, which will cover the Keys in Florida. So a growing organization, and definitely one of the niche areas in terms of looking at home health and hospice and some of those more difficult, hard to fill positions. So taking a step back again, that thinking through having a discussion and a thorough thought process into what type of an event makes sense for the organization. So for them, again, their needs, taking a look at what was the background, what got us to this conversation. They had needs throughout the system for RNs, LPNs, chaplains, social workers, and home health aides. So a pretty large variety of positions in terms of some of your more entry level, all the way up through nurses to chaplains, which is, obviously, even a totally different area, but a heavily based position in the post-acute care. So a variety of needs. We also knew only recruiters were participating. This wasn't an event in which they wanted to have the hiring managers. This was their first foray into the virtual space. So we knew that they weren't going to necessarily be doing in-depth interviews. They weren't going to be talking to hiring managers. Clearly, no offers were going to be made. So all of those factors played a part into determining what type of an event. And then, of course, what's the marketing strategy? Like Robin just mentioned, how do we get folks to this event? It's great that we're doing this practice and getting ready, but without the nurses, the LPNs, the chaplains, et cetera, it's all for nothing. So we utilized a lot of their ongoing marketing, because we work with them on a regular basis, to basically pivot the messaging to promote the virtual hiring event. And of course, team training. Everybody participated in a training prior to the event to make sure that they used the live chat tool to make sure they were comfortable, that they could log in, that they knew how to chat. that they knew where they could find archive chats, that they knew where they could download resumes when someone submitted. So all of those little nuanced things that you're allowed to take advantage of in a live chat tool, they were prepared for ahead of time by doing that training. So I'm just going to show you a couple screenshots of some of their marketing efforts. They utilized an Indeed hiring event, which I'm sure everybody's familiar with, which is a very successful tool to help us drive RSVPs. We also utilized a pop-up message on their home site. Again, they have a very established brand, both as a provider in the community, but also as an employer throughout the community. So we know they're getting a lot of traffic. So putting that message right there on their homepage so that anybody who comes to their homepage looking for a career is able to see that. We also utilized social media, a very obviously robust tool and a place that everybody is spending time. So on the left, you'll see what we call a single image ad on Facebook. On the right-hand side, you'll see what we call a carousel ad. Obviously, if you were to hit this right arrow, it would scroll and it shows different images with different messages. If you think back to your time on Facebook, I'm sure you'll have seen carousel ads as well. And of course, we drove everybody to a specific landing page where they could RSVP. So again, right at the top of the page, who it's for, when it is, below some information on the organization. If they were to hit this register now button, a form pops up where they can RSVP. So again, driving RSVPs as we lead up to the event, that allows the recruitment team to have an idea of what to expect in terms of attendance. Once they RSVP, they're going to get a thank you message just as a reminder. And then again, on the day of the event, they're going to come back now. And what you see, the only difference is instead of saying RSVP or register, it says chat now. And that is one thing I've noticed, just when looking around the internet at healthcare organizations, there can be a mixed message sent when if the event is actually being held on a page that has RSVP or register now when the chat's actually happening. So just making sure that you either change the page the day of the event or have a separate page. Again, that might sound confusing. So follow up with us offline, have a chat with your internal marketing partner, whoever that is, but just make sure that on the day of the event, there's no confusion with them trying to re-register. Rather, they know that they can chat now and have a button to click to get that started. So again, this was their first virtual event, so there's always a little anxiety in myself. I always want these things to be successful. They had 242 RSVPs, which was a very high number. Again, as I said, this spread through a variety of position types. They also, we also were promoting this in a large geographic area, so we were pretty confident that of those, we would see a strong turnout, and we did. We saw 172 of those actually showed up to chat with this group. Again, had 4 members of the recruitment team participating. So a very high RSVP number, but more importantly, a very high attendee to RSVP number, which is great. I'd never like to see 242 RSVPs and 15 to 20 or 30 show up to chat. So again, that communication and those reminder emails leading up to the event are very important as well. So they were very happy with this, and we are already in the process of planning their next hiring event as well. So very successful event. And again, this is a chat event. We didn't promote it as anything different. So that goes back to Robin's do's and don'ts. Do select the event type that you know is going to work for you, right? How far can we advance these candidates? We knew there was going to be a high volume, and we also knew there wasn't going to be hiring managers. So we didn't want to use the term interview or hiring. We specifically referred to it as a chat event. It was an opportunity for you as an interested candidate to actually chat with a recruiter, which without virtual, unless it's a hiring event, is impossible. So this is reducing the friction from that connection point of candidates and recruiters. And usually in this type of event, it's just the recruiter asking questions, telling them about opportunities, and typically directing them to a specific job to apply. So don't misrepresent what type of event it is. Don't say it's an interview event or if it's a hiring event if that's not happening, right? I use the example on the consumer side. If you were told that you could go test drive a car, you got to the car dealership and they said, oh, you can't actually test drive. All I can do is show you the outside of the car. They misrepresented that. You're going to be angry, and the odds are you're going to go to the next car dealership. You're not going to come back. Candidates are no different. So make sure we're saying exactly what we're going to be able to deliver on. And make it easy. Like I was just talking about, if you're having a chat with a candidate and they are a social worker looking to work in Pinellas County on weekends, don't just say, yes, we have that position. Go to our website and apply and find it. You know the ATS, you know the ins and outs. Send them the link to that specific job. So within one click, they're at that job and they are ready to apply. Don't just say, hey, go to the homepage and navigate through it. Make it as easy as you can, and then provide a great candidate experience. Really help create that relationship between you and the candidate. So as soon as that completion that application is completed, you've already got a connection. You can reach out to them and continue the conversation. So again, make it as easy as possible. So the next type of event we're going to look at is the virtual chat series. So this essentially is an ongoing chat series. So it's not just a one-time event on May 14, it's an ongoing series. So before I tell you or we look at why that happened, let's start with how we got there. Every year, Duke has an annual March Madness hiring event. If you're familiar with Duke, they're a world-renowned health system. They're also a world-renowned college basketball team and college athletics in general. So we've always had what we call the March Madness event. It's built around March Madness, the theme, the creative, the mascot even shows up when available. So they have this planned every year for early to mid-March. Well, this year, 6 days prior to the event, the decision was made that this event needed to pivot to virtual. We weren't comfortable having it on site. We knew that 500 plus people were going to show up. And with everything going on in the world, we just weren't comfortable doing that. So we pivoted to the March Madness event. And within 6 days, we transitioned to a virtual platform, got everybody trained, communicated it, because for 3 weeks prior, we were calling it an on-site hiring event. So much had to happen over those 6 days, but it was a huge success. I can't say job well done enough to everybody on the Duke team for being so willing to participate and help. They had over 500 RSVPs. Of those, 379 chats took place. And of those 379, over 150 were hired. So this is all, again, from one-day virtual hiring event. Again, it was promoted differently leading up to it, but they were able to transition and make it extremely successful. So with that in mind, and having the sort of foresight to know that, hey, we're not going to be scheduling any on-site events coming up soon, let's really make this a series. So here you can see we made it a series from March 23 to May 20. It actually continued after that, and it ran through the end of June. We're making some changes now, and the program will pick up again in August, but they are continuing to do this virtual hiring event series. So again, the idea is on a regular basis, you're giving different candidates based on their job or specialty the opportunity to chat virtually with your recruitment team. So here you can see kind of what it looks like. You can come to this page. So you'll see every Tuesday it's for med-surg, every Thursday it's for oncology or heart. So they're doing it by specialty area. Again, this is Duke Nursing, so this is all specific to nursing. They also do nursing assistants and medical assistants. But every day there's opportunities in different windows based on what you're interested in to virtually, via a chat-based tool, connect with recruiters. Again, because it's ongoing, it's not something that we can just set up and expect people to come to. We are promoting it ongoing, regularly, through their career website, through targeted ads, paid search, social media, remarketing, which is what Robin showed earlier, where if you have a CRM or some type of tool where you're collecting candidate info, sending emails and inviting them, and then those retargeting banner ads. So again, an ongoing marketing program that has been running really since it started back in March. Obviously, we update it, change the imaging, update the dates, et cetera, but an ongoing program to drive traffic to this ongoing chat series.
And Daniel, just to kind of step in here, we're able to monitor all of that marketing throughout, because this was a 3-month program. And if we see something that we want to tweak or make better or test, we're able to do that in this case. And that's just part of our process as marketers.
Yep, that's a great point. So the do's and don'ts here is, in terms of managing your expectations. So for that one-day first March Madness event, they had over 350 chats. Now, when you fast forward to the chat series, you really want to manage your expectation in terms of what the attendee volume is. If you're having chats daily, so on Tuesdays, it's both med-surg and oncology. On Thursdays, it's heart services, and there was one other area. So because it's happening so regularly, you can't expect to have that same volume. You're not going to have 300 people show up every day, probably not even have 50 or 20 people show up every day. But understand that you're providing an opportunity for those specialty candidates to connect on a regular basis. So just making sure that you understand what your expectations are, what you're going to get out of it, just because you want to keep everybody excited about this. You don't want it to feel like it's a waste of time. But when you're having something, again, Duke's doing it for such specialty areas, even a handful of chats where you're able to, as a recruiter, connect with that experienced oncology nurse or neurology nurse or medical assistant, that is considered a success. So based on the event type, managing expectations of what you think you're going to get out of it is very important to, being able to have the excitement of the team moving forward throughout this live chat series. And then when you think of candidate workflow, make sure you clearly communicate those next steps. So again, if you think back to one of my early slides, I talked about how you come up with a strategy. What's your follow-up strategy? That is so important, because if a experienced oncology nurse, you're chatting with them, it shouldn't just be, okay, have a great day, nice chatting with you. Clearly communicate the next steps. Is it, hey, here's a job you should go apply for? Is it, I would like to schedule a follow-up call with myself? Is it, I'd like to schedule a follow-up call with you and our hiring manager? Clearly communicate those steps. I always say that every successful chat should end with a what's happening next. So don't miss the opportunity to advance a strong candidate because you just aren't being specific. Clearly communicate what that next step is. Again, that's going to have a huge impact on the success of your event. So now we're going to look at what we call a virtual interview event. And this is for Northeast Georgia Health System. I mentioned it earlier. They are about an hour northeast of Atlanta. They are now a 4-hospital-based system. They years ago were 2, then they moved to 3, now they're 4. So a growing system with a very large physician group as well, with over 35 locations, Northeast Georgia Physicians Group. So we're going to talk to you about what a virtual event is, what got us to this process, and how it can be something that's utilized by your team.
So in March, once COVID-19 kind of started, we did interview several respiratory therapists. And what we learned from them is that they were some of the most affected by COVID-19. And some of what they said is, it's opened the eyes of everyone to what respiratory therapists do. And we hope that the light will be shined on us like it is with all of the nurses in the media, in the world, and within the organization. So knowing what they were going through and asking them to commit to a specific day or time might not be the best strategy. So when you think about an interview event, we might want to consider that this is something that will be more ongoing, where people can fill out a form and actually schedule an interview with recruiters, as opposed to asking people to show up on a day and time. So we're promoting the interview event, and when they get to the form, it's very important to clearly communicate to the candidate what you're asking them to do. So in this case, it's complete our brief form, and a recruiter will be in touch with you to schedule your interview. We collect some information. In this example, we did target respiratory therapists and medical technicians. So we got all their information. We asked what the best time to contact them was, and then it's up to the recruitment team to get in touch with the candidates, and they're able to pre-screen them a little bit more because of this interview style. So,
and one other
go ahead.
No, one other thing I'd point out is that, so this is actually a type of event, and I'm using air quotes, you can't see me, but that we actually started doing back in the fall. So again, this is something we started pre-COVID that we have done for positions ranging from registered nurses to nursing assistants to home health nurses. And again, going back to Robin's point, instead of saying, hey, you have to commit to a specific date and time, using a call to action of saying it's an event and allowing them to quickly submit their information from any device, super easy. This form can be filled out in 10 seconds. So now your recruitment team can start to reach out to those qualified candidates and schedule those interviews. So something we've seen for a variety of positions be successful.
Yeah, and this is a really good option if you're targeting a really hard to fill audience. And also if your team is just not wanting or able to commit to a specific day and time for a bigger event. And with the interview style of event, the biggest do and don't is timely follow-up. It is critical to reach out to these candidates as quickly as possible, especially if you look at the respiratory therapist example. If they're reaching out to you, there's a good chance they're also reaching out to a local competitor or another hospital in the area. So you cannot wait more than a few days to try to get to the candidates. Basically, you're collecting information, and that database could go to waste if you don't follow up with them quickly. So for this interview event, which included the respiratory therapists and the MLTs, they had 120 leads. So then they're able to go through the leads and schedule the interviews. From this event, they hired 2 respiratory therapists and 4 MLTs. So it was very successful for them.
So the last type of event we're going to talk about is the invitation only. So this is the type of event where candidates are actually invited. So they're not just filling out a form and showing up. again, even if it was an on-site event, if someone RSVPs, they're going to show up to the location. If it's a virtual event, they RSVP, they're going to come to that website at 10 a.m. on March 14th. This is a true invitation-only event, meaning they're going to submit some type of information, whether it's an application or a form. From there, the recruiter is going to either, if it's an application, make sure that they meet all the qualifications. If it's a form, there might be a call. Something's happening when once they've said, hey, I want to attend, the recruiter is doing some due diligence and some extra work and then actually sending out specific invitations. So this event for Duke is their new to the operating room event. So this is an event that they do quarterly because their OR is so large. They have multiple ambulatory surgery centers, 3 hospitals, so many wide variety of services they perform within perioperative services. So this is an opportunity for them to bring in nurses, either experienced but not in the OR, or even new grads, and for them to, after this event, if they're hired, basically a 6-month shadow program where they can learn the ins and outs of the operating room and then become an operating room nurse. So again, if you look at the schedule on the right, this is from when it was on site. It's a very structured event with speakers, with breakfast, with roundtable Q&A, with one-on-one interviews. So this is not something that is easily done virtually, but it's something that has to be done virtually. So fortunately, there are some very great tools out there that can be utilized to almost be able to accomplish everything that you're seeing on the schedule here on the right-hand side. So they're actually using Zoom. I'm sure, again, as I mentioned, Zoom is something that you might not even realize is a platform. Zoom is just the idea, I think, of a video conference or a video chat or a video happy hour. So some of the great options with Zoom that they're utilizing to, again, bring that same experience for this virtual new to the OR event is the waiting room or lobby. So when anybody logs in, it's going to start at 8 a.m. They ask that people show up 10 minutes early. Everybody's in a lobby. There might be a movie playing. There might be someone speaking, but everybody that is attending the event is in the lobby or waiting room. From there, you can do different things. You can have interview rooms. So if you have 40 attendees, each one of them can go and interview one-on-one in an interview room with either one hiring manager or a panel of hiring managers. You can even set a time limit on the interview. If you know you have 4 hours and based on how many candidates you have, you can set each interview to only last a certain amount of time. And when that time limit expires, that candidate will be sent back to the waiting room, and the next candidate will go from the waiting room to the interview room. And then additionally, you can have breakout sessions. So you might have, while some people are interviewing, another part of the group is in a session where a leader of the OR is speaking, or it's a roundtable Q&A session. So multiple things can be happening at a time within one Zoom meeting. Again, think about you go to a national conference, the National Association of Healthcare Recruiters. You've got your waiting room in your lobby area where you get your coffee and your snacks. There's different rooms where breakout sessions are happening. There's the large exhibit hall. They're essentially taking all of those similar concepts to those large on-site meetings, but you can now figure out ways to do them virtually. So this event has not happened yet. It's going to happen at the end of the month. So no results to share, but they're so far doing all of the right things to make sure this event is a huge success. So with that, preparation is really what it's all about. Conducting a dry run, I would say multiple times for a virtual event of this size. They have multiple recruiters involved, multiple leaders, hiring managers. There's the transitioning candidates from different rooms to different rooms. So being prepared and making sure you've gone through everything that's going to happen multiple times, because what you don't want to have happen is the candidates who are showing up to this event be the ones working out the kinks for you. Again, that can be awkward, provide a weird experience. You don't want candidates to leave the event, get accidentally kicked out of the event. These are nurses who are dedicating an entire day to join this virtual experience to learn about the OR, in this instance at Duke Health. So be prepared. The success is in the preparation. So any type of event, even if it's not this, if it's just a live chat, be prepared and make sure that it's a great experience for the candidate.
And don't let that get overwhelming. I think that type of event is the biggest of all of them. So everybody take a breath, and then we'll keep going.
So just to recap, there's, again, a lot of types of events, and you may not have even, when you think of virtual events, you may not have thought of some of these different nuances, and you may have used other types, and that's fine as well. There is just so many different ways to utilize virtual. And for better or worse, I think we're going to be doing this for the foreseeable future. So again, there's the live chat events where we're not telling them it's an interview event. We're not saying it's a hiring event because that's not the case. It's, again, an opportunity for candidates to connect with recruiters. Then there are true hiring events where the hiring managers are involved. Recruiters are doing thorough interviews. We also have the interview events. That's where, for respiratory therapists, Robin showed where we're not saying it's a specific date and time. We're giving them flexibility, just saying, hey, let us know you're interested and we'll coordinate that interview. And then, of course, the invitation event. This might be something like a new to the OR. I've seen this done for RN residency events, where, again, it's done virtually because you have 50 to 100 RN residents coming in. So different types of events require different tactics, different technology, different thoughts. So now what, right? Whether it's the new to the OR and you've got 40 nurses who you say, hey, we're ready to hire them, or if it's the Northeast Georgia Med Tech and you've got 4 Med Techs that you say, hey, these folks are great, we got to get them hired. Obviously, you have to do onboarding, and in most organizations, that has to be done digitally. So we're going to talk about how we have been able to take the new hire orientation to a virtual platform. So the example we're going to show is for Beth Israel Lakey Health. They are headquartered in Burlington, but in general, you could say they're in Boston, Massachusetts. They have a number of different entities. They have 3 hospitals. They have a home health entity, behavioral health, and each of those entities does a different orientation, different benefits, different people speaking, all these different nuances. So we've actually created different orientation experiences for the different entities. So I'm just going to show you what it looks like. I'm actually going to click on this and toggle over to a browser quickly so we can take a look. So essentially, we've created almost like a virtual orientation platform where everything that the candidate needs lives in one space. So the only way a candidate is going to get to this page is if the recruiter, after they're hired, sends them this specific URL. So here's all the information about exactly what they need to do. They simply hit the Get Started button, and it's all a step-by-step process. So this is the general orientation. You click here for the new orient hire information. It's going to pull this information up as a PDF. This candidate can scroll and read through everything. When they're done, they're going to go back to the main page and say, I have done that. So I'm going to move on to step 2. And again, you can see it's all step by step, all a very structured process of exactly what they need to do. So we're putting all the information that you might normally sit and hear in an auditorium or a classroom setting, and we're bringing it to this virtual platform. And like I said, they have a number of different entities, so we've created different specific orientation structures for each of those entities. So just to recap what the virtual orientation benefits are, you're still able to onboard that new staff. We got to continue to hire. We got to continue to onboard. Whether you're hiring more right now, whether you're hiring not less right now due to COVID-19, there are still so many critical roles that need to be filled, and we need to be able to still onboard that staff. This allows you to do that. You can also have rolling orientation. So instead of it just being, hey, every other Tuesday or the second Wednesday of the month we hold orientation for 100 people, if you hire that ICU nurse that you need desperately or that respiratory therapist, instead of waiting till the second Tuesday or the first Wednesday of the month, you can send them that link and they can complete that digital orientation today. They can be working tomorrow or the next day. So it really speeds up the hiring process. And again, you can have different orientations for different types of positions, different entities. It's all fully customizable. It's not a one-size-fits-all. And again, continuing to tweak and improve. Robin mentioned this about the event series. We're looking at what works, what doesn't. Same thing with these virtual orientations. If you start to notice that you're getting asked the same question or there's a certain point in the process where a candidate is confused, all of those things can be tweaked on a regular basis because, again, now that they're hired, we want to finish this process by giving them a great virtual orientation process. So that's everything. So we thank you for sticking with us. Just to recap of all of that, some of the main things we think that and hope that you've learned and can hopefully take back to your organizations and share and utilize. Certainly, if you need assistance with any of this, we invite you to follow up with us. You can visit our website, fusionideas.com. Going virtual is accessible with the proper planning and preparation. There are a number of tools out there, but it all starts in the details, the planning, and the preparation, thinking through who your audience is, who's involved, what you look to or think you can actually do virtually, and planning based upon that. And again, knowing your audience expects a smooth process. Everybody's used to going virtual at this point. Friends are Zooming at night. Everybody's working virtual. Everybody's, even if it's your friends and family. So people are so familiar with it that they expect you to be familiar with it. So don't be having them work the kinks out for you. Set it up, do your testing, make sure it's a smooth experience for them.
And know that there's not a one-size-fits-all solution when it comes to hosting a virtual event. We went over a few different scenarios, and if you're interested in more, we're happy to sit with you, talk about the needs, think about how to start small and then go bigger and bigger and better. And then the last one is the importance of promoting your event. We cannot stress enough how critical it is if you're hosting a virtual event, you need to be able to promote it to get people to come and attend that event.
And I will say that's one of the things that I hear if someone's disappointed with a virtual event, it's typically because, the attendance, they're doing preparation, but people aren't showing up. And then you start to dig deeper and have a conversation about what was done from a marketing and advertising standpoint. And the answer is usually, well, I don't know, or well, nothing. So again, it's not enough just to have an event. You have to promote it as well. And so that is, again, something that we can come in and partner with you if you don't already have someone who can help you with that. So with that, we would like to say thank you for joining us, for taking the time to spend part of your day with us. We hope this was educational. We hope this was helpful. If you have any questions or follow-up, again, feel free to reach out to us directly. We hope you found this informational useful. Hope you can continue to improve your virtual hiring events, and we wish you well. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone.